Good morning, good afternoon. So, listen, today I would like to talk to you guys in regards of grace. And what I am calling this video is called Grace Be Abound, okay? Because this was on my spirit earlier this week, and like this whole week, like it's been off. I ain't even gonna lie. It has been completely off. And sometimes you already know how that goes. Like when we have like off days, off weeks, off months, you be like, bro, what is going on? But in my spirit, God was saying, grace be abound. So whatever this week or this day or this month has been given you does not shine you in a different light. Okay. I want to put that out there. Like, listen, regardless of whatever your experience, it does not take away the seeds that you have been planting. It does not take away from the harvest that you are going to be reaping. Okay? Listen, and this is for the people that is actually being diligent in what they're supposed to be doing. I mean, as in obedience and, abstaining from sin and just doing what they need to do. When you are doing what you need to do, understand God knows that we're not perfect. So the grace will be upon you. So when the times you do fall short or you make bad choices or you respond in a hasty way or whatever the case may be, and you're I would say remorseful, grace is what carry you. And I'm going to give you an example, like, because I had a situation where, listen, it wasn't crazy, but grace carried me, because not only did it was viewed in a bad light, and what came upon the situation made me look inward. And I'm like, God, like, what just happened? Like, you know what I'm saying? And even then he allowed the grace to, and I'm going to disclose it as we get further in the video, but it was just, you will know when the grace come upon you and you're just like, thank you, God, I'm so grateful. And I just want to say, like, listen, grace will carry you. Understand, if you're ever, like I said, if you're experiencing like, tough times or whatever the case may be, and you're mindful, I'm not saying like, listen, you're facing hard times and now you're just lashing out at people. No, we're saying when you're going through hard times and you're being prudent about it, and you're being mindful in regards to that. So even if you're having a bad day, you're still extending grace to other people. Even when you want to flip the lid, you're still having that lid on tight and saying, you know what, no, just because I'm going through something doesn't mean that everybody else have to experience what I'm going through. And when I say this, when you are being mindful, understand, when you do have your moments where you make that wrong decision, that's when the grace come upon you. And God is saying, listen, I understand the weight that is upon you. Okay, so yes. So I want to start by this. It says, regardless of our own thought and emotions, God will provide grace. So understand, and what I'm saying by this is that, listen, when we are like walking in the stride of God and we're doing the things that, that we're supposed to be doing, and we're diligent about it, we're holding ourselves accountable, and we're doing everything that we want to do, in regards of God, sometimes we feel like we don't deserve grace, even though that we're doing what we like. And what I mean by that is that, how we're so gun-held on ourselves, like we're so hard on ourselves, and we're so just like, bro, like we don't even want to give ourselves grace. And sometimes we have to remind ourselves to give grace. I'm telling you, remind yourself to give yourself grace. And sometimes we don't even feel like God, just, how should I put this, like, God can give us grace. You know what I'm saying? How can we even allow God to give us grace when we're not even accepting our own grace? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're so hard on ourselves when we're not, allowing us to be human and be like, bro, sometimes we do make mistakes. Sometimes, like, we are having a bad day. Like, because I had to learn how to give myself grace. Because I'm like, how could you do this? I was just so hard on myself. So I'm just saying, regardless of your emotions, regardless of what you think, God will extend that grace to you. Even when you feel like you messed up completely, you'd be like, no, he sees you. He sees your heart. He sees your intent. Like, he's going to give you that grace. So yes. I said here, this does not mean we cannot do what we want, but in certain cases, where we fall short. You know what I'm saying? And this goes into Romans 6. In my last video, I spoke about, like, you know, sins and salvation and grace and things of that nature. Same thing. You get the same message in regards of grace from Romans 6, chapter 6 through 8. Okay, so same thing. You're not supposed to abuse grace and say, oh, it's always going to save me. No, this is when, and the difference is that you using grace, but instead of God using grace. So the difference between the two is that you using grace, meaning as in, okay, I'm gonna do this and God is gonna save me. No, what I'm speaking about is I made a mistake. This was a mistake that I didn't mean to make, and God bestows the grace upon you, okay? And you will feel, and I'm going to speak about that, you will feel the difference. You will know when God is placing that grace on you, okay? So I'm not saying that, listen, you can do what you want. No, grace, no. I'm talking about when God gives you grace because you have made a mistake and you're still holding yourself accountable. You're like, yo, like, I feel bad about this. I feel heavy about this. Like, I didn't mean to come off. And I'm not saying nothing crazy, but just in general, you know how when we make, you know, certain mistakes, when you're a good individual, like you're a wholesome individual, like, for example, okay, you know, like somebody that is nice and kind, and you know they're having a bad day and they wasn't so nice, it wasn't so kind. Yeah, I'm talking about that type of, you know, thing. So when you have those days, God will be like, okay, I'm gonna give this person a pass. Like, you know what I'm saying? And because he knows, okay, I'm not, he or she didn't choose that day to do that. You know what I'm saying? It's one of the moments where he sees the burdens, he sees the weight, he sees the storm. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's one of those things, you know, or just the innocence in it. Like, yo, I did not mean to do that, like, at all. And I can relate. I'm like, and it can even be where, how should I put this? It can even be a situation where somebody can misconstrue what you did or what you said. You know what I'm saying? And somebody come up against you, and you're like, and it almost makes you feel bad. Like, bro, like, that was not my intention. Like, I was not trying to do that. And that was in that instance, that was me. I had something happen and somebody was just, they had said something. I'm like, that was never my intentions at all, you know. And it was to the point where it made me feel some type of way. And I'm like, and I had to go to God, and I'm like, God, like, you know, what just happened? You know, like, what just happened? And that's when he allowed me to feel that grace, allowed me to accept what happened, and allow me to, you know, relinquish that. Like, because that wasn't me. It wasn't mine to feel. Like, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't mine to accept. So he extended that grace, he placed it upon me, and I was able to release that. You know what I'm saying? Because it wasn't mine. So I'm like, God, you know, like, I don't get that, you know. So yes. Example, this feels like peace regardless of the circumstance. So that's what grace feel like when it comes from God. Like, it's like peace. Like, you feel contentment with whatever is happening. You're like, you know what, I'm okay. Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's not like arrogance, it's not like, you know, boastful or anything like that. That's when you're abusing. I'm not abusing, but that's when you're in your own realm of grace. Like, when people in there, and what I'm saying by this is like, it goes back to when I say people using their own grace, like, oh, God got me. So when that's when people are in that area, it's like boastful. It's like, you know, just, I don't even know like how to explain it. It's completely different between God. You know what I'm saying? When God has given you grace, it's like you resolved in your spirit. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, I know type of thing, like God is going to fix this or whatever the case may be. It was like God had to fix it in your spirit. Thank you, God. Like, God had to fix it in your spirit. Like, nah, it's okay. Like, here's this grace, here's this peace, and now continue to move forward. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was crazy. What happened. So God is a forgiving God. Like, you know what I'm saying? He's going to forgive you even when you feel like you can't forgive yourself in regards of certain things. Like, you know, like, dang, like, God, I need you. Sometimes you have to call out to him and ask him to help you forgive yourself, because you're like, I am struggling right now. I'm holding myself on a hook that if I keep on wiggling, I'm going, you know, take my own self out. Like, and I don't mean that literally, but I mean as in, we all know when we're holding ourselves in a place of unforgiveness. Like, we know what it feels like when we have not forgave ourselves. We're just like, everything we look at, everything we turn to is like, look what you did here. Look what you did here. Now you could have did better here. See, you're still moving in the same direction. Like, it's like a repetitive negative jerk. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, nah, like, so sometimes you just have to, call in God and be like, God, I need you to help me to forgive myself in regards of this, because God, he's already, once you ask for forgiveness and you're moving in a different, way, it's already done. You're a new creature in him. You know what I'm saying? Now, it's the hard part when you're trying to forgive yourself. And that's what a lot of us battle with. Like, God has already forgotten our sins. It's us that didn't forget them sins or forgive them sins. Like, yo, I can't believe I did this or I did that, or whatever the case may be. But he's a forgiving God. You know what I'm saying? So, and even in the moment when you make certain decisions and it wasn't intentional, you know what I'm saying? He will bestow that, that grace upon you and allow you to, move in a comfortable way instead of placing another item in your unforgivable bag. Like, bro, and now you have another thing that's you're beating yourself up with, So yes, it says, look at the Israelites and all the chances he gave them, bro. Like, let me tell you, I love the chapters of, we starting from Deuteronomy, which what's next? Joshua and Judges. All three of them, they back to back. Like, I can't believe how many chances that God gave them. Like, it do remind me of how I used to be with, and really. And so I guess I do have the spirit of Christ in me even then. Like, I was very forgiving. Like, oh my God, like, if you are someone that reads the Bible, I need you to go read the Old Testament, Deuteronomy, Joshua, and Judges. They all just, and you will see the not even a transition. It's like, you will just see the pattern of the Israelites, like the way that God was just like so forgiving. But let me tell you something. God will stand his ground. Let me tell you, he got to a point in Judges and he told them, I'm not delivering you no more. I don't even know how many times they turned from him. God delivered. He sent them a prophet. He delivered them. They turned back. Then they fell into slavery. They cried out. God delivered them. He sent the prophet, delivered them. They turned back. Like, I mean, I want to say, like, in no exaggeration, if I can count, like, off the top of my head, I want to say like 7 times and maybe even more. Like, I'm just like, how? And God got to a point, he said, you know what? I'm not delivering you. How about you turn and ask the gods that you have been serving to deliver you? It was crazy. I said, oh, okay. We ain't trying to get to that position with God. Like, we're not trying to do that. No, like, for you to tell me to my face to go back to where I came from and ask them, knowing that they can't. Because this is why I cried out to you. I had to dig down. I had to go into my memory bank and know that God is God and he is him. And he's the only one that can do what I need him to do. Bro, oh my God. So listen, just like, he gave them so much grace. And of course, and even when he told them that he wasn't going to deliver them, when he seen them suffering, and because the Israelites told him, when God said that, he was like, listen, the Israelites was like, listen, do what you want to me. Like, I'm going to serve you, whatever the case may be. They was like, listen, I'm tired of suffering. I'm gonna do it. And if you don't want to deliver, fine. So God, he was just like, his heart was grieved and he did end up delivering him. So that's how much grace that he does have. Even when he don't want to do it, he'll still do it because loves us. Okay? I'm just saying. So, yes, so it says at one point, well, just reinstate what I was saying. At one point, God said to them, he will not deliver them and seek deliverance through the God they were serving. But it says he was grieved for their suffering. He's a forgiving God. He's a graceful God. So understand, he is going to, if you're doing what you're supposed to do, understand that the grace will be abound. He will provide that grace that you need when you need it. Not when you think you need it. Not when you say, oh, he's going to cover me when you're trying to do certain sins and say, oh, well, I'm saved. Oh, no. We talking about when we feel low on ourselves because we know that we made a bad choice and we're beating up on ourselves. And God said, like, listen, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. And he's going to place that grace on you. And like I said, it's going to feel like a peaceful contentment. And he had to resolve that in your spirit, because it's like I said, it's you warring against yourself and you making yourself feel bad, you know what I'm saying, for something that, that you thought that you could have did better on. You know what I'm saying? And he's like, listen, we that's not what we need to do. You know what I'm saying? And he will place that grace upon you. So yes, through grace, you will overcome any offense. So that's another thing. So sometimes it may not even be, something that we did. It could be just somebody coming up against us and slandering us, making us, making lies or whatever the case may be, a character assassination. It can be anything, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes it can weigh on people and it'll make us, want to believe in that. Once again, it goes back to, what I was saying, us beating up on ourselves, especially if somebody is convincing and you're like, wow, like, and a lot of people is, ganging up on you. It could be any circumstance, you know what I'm saying? And God will place that grace upon you. Like, listen, walk through the fire. No fire will be kindled upon you, okay? No water will overcome you, okay? Just saying. So when you're on your journey, there will be times where through grace, you will overcome offense. So to get into, my story, I had, I serviced people and I was helping an individual and somebody has said, I had said something and I'm like, hey, like a redirection, and somebody said something and they took my words and pretty much just twisted them. And I'm like, and it left me in a position where I'm like, what just happened? Like, you know what I'm saying? Because that wasn't what just happened. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I had to, I went into prayer and I'm like, God, and it was, to me, it was an offense. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, why would they even say something like that? Like, because that's not even in my character, So, and God, he placed the grace on me. And that when it happened that day, I was bothered by it. I went into prayer that night. The next day, I was good, and everything worked out within itself. Then, like, literally, it worked out. You ever have a situation where, like, it was supposed to escalate, but it was nipped in the bud, and you heard no more of it, and that's exactly what happened. I'm like, okay, God, like, you know what? I give it to you. In a certain circumstance like that, you need to go into prayer and give it to him. Lay it at his feet, because if you lay it at his feet, then he'll be able to work it out in the way that he needs to work it out. Because if you keep it to yourself, then everything that you feel, everything that you worry, everything that you think is going to come. You know what I'm saying? And you don't want that, because he says, say it if it's so, even if it's not. So if you say it if it's so, even if it's not, and they say it for a good thing. So it can happen with bad things just as well. So if you're saying and you're thinking and you're repeating certain negative things in regards to certain situations, it's going to come. So when you go through offense or anything that, that is coming up upon you, go into prayer and lay it at his feet. I lay it at your feet, God. So yes. So I want to speak about another example. It says, I wrote here, share a word in regards of being blameless. So before I had the offense, that week, it was on my spirit to be blameless. I'm like, be blameless. I'm like, well, God, I try to strive I walk in your walk anyway. But in that now, looking in the hindsight, I'm thinking he was more so saying be like really, really particular and careful. You understand what I'm saying? Because it's crazy how he was telling me to be blameless, and it covered me. You know what I'm saying? In that instance, because the instance happened in that same week when he was telling me to be blameless, because it was random when he placed it on my spirit. I'm like, be blameless. What does it mean, be blameless? And he was telling me this. It was every day. It was on my mind. You know how you have something just like repeat itself? That's how it was. I'm like, be blameless. Be blameless. Wait, what? Okay. And then next thing you know, that situation happened. And I'm like it made complete sense. So, and I made a video the other day when I was saying, if God placed something on your spirit, adhere to it, because it's a caution. It's a caution for you for what you're about to encounter. You know what I'm saying? And this can be a good thing or bad thing, and caution doesn't sound like a good thing, but understand, or just, how should I put this? A caution, or like, I don't, like a warning. So, but even warning don't sound good, but we all need guidance when it comes to a good thing and bad thing. If you have something good and you never had it before, how can you maintain it without warnings? Without you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do this. You know what I'm saying? The risks, you run risks. So if God ever placed something on your spirit, adhere to it, because you don't, like, God, that means God knows something before you know, even though he's all knowing. But if he's messaging it to you in your spirit, that means that he knows something that you're about to encounter, and you need to adhere to that, because whatever he's saying to you is a preparation and it's a protection and armor also. Okay, so yes. So it says, grace does not excuse you from consequence. So once again, like, it doesn't stop what we did. Now, understand, it depends on it depends on the circumstance. So in regards of offense, that's people coming up against you. That's people, trying to alter certain things to make it appear what it's not. You know what I'm saying? So in that case, I would say you would, and I wouldn't say you would suffer consequence, because it's not something that you actually did, but in regards of if you actually made a mistake and it was intentional, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna give you an example, like David, when he was, liking on that wife, and he sent the husband on the front line. Understand, God told him, like, listen, you're going to reap what you sowed. You know what I'm saying? Even though he was favored by God, he's going to reap what he sowed, because he deliberately made that choice. He knew what he was doing, So, yeah. Yeah, it doesn't stop the consequences at all. God is going to be with you still, but doesn't stop it. So just be mindful. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. So God gave him grace, but God allowed him to experience the consequence behind his choice. So he ended up suffering. I believe his kids was cursed, so it was like, it was one of them things where, like, you knew what you was doing, and God warned him, like, listen, don't think that you're untouchable just because you're favored. You know what I'm saying? Like, no. And that goes back, and that goes into abusing grace. You know what I'm saying? Because he knew, for one, you're connected to God. So why would you even make that type of choice anyway? Like, you know what I'm saying? And if you did make that choice, what did you think was going to happen? Did you think that God was not going to allow the consequences to come upon you because of the grace? Like, no, you have to be mindful in regards of that. So I just wanted to speak about in regards of grace be abound, because listen, sometimes we struggle, we go through things, and understand God is with you. So yeah, I just want to let y'all know, grace be abound on you. Just trust, keep on believing, and keep on being obedient. If this video resonated with you, please like, share, and comment.